So Arsenal eventually got that 3-2 victory over Bournemouth, eventually, in the 97th minute. And you know how we don't like to police people's fun on here. Well, sometimes I do worry that you've taken that a bit far.
Well. Gary Lineker's filming me like this, Kel, just like on the sly.
Why is no one hugging you? Like your arms are wide open.
No,
I
I probably would have hurt somebody the way I was celebrating.
I can't understand why you were so subdued.
Exactly. You know what it was? Is that I
Still a lot of the season to go.
I actually came to the when you come to the conclusion when it was 2-0, then it was 2-1. I was thinking, well, at least we showed a little bit of heart. Then it went 2-2. I said, you know what? We'll take the draw. We're lucky to come. And so just before the corner, because Zinchenko had the chance. And it was a corner, and I went, well, that's it. Probably going to blow the whistle after this corner.
I was watching it on a train. I had to get off the train, and I saw the Zinchenko chance, and exactly that. I was like, I need to get off the train. That's fine, I've missed it. And I couldn't work out why everybody was talking about a brilliant comeback. So I thought, it's 2-2.
I thought you were saying that you had to get off the train because you could hear writing.
It was brilliant. It was brilliant in the moment.
Away.
Brilliant for Reece, brilliant for, even ALN. Yeah. The free goals, all had ALN players involved in them, and for him to do it at this stage of the season for Arsenal, a player that people have constantly said he should have gone on loan, he's been injured, you know what I mean, what's he waiting around for? And then Mikel is using all of that group to make them all understand they might have a part to play in this. And so to see him finally come on and score a goal like that and take it so cool and calmly on his weaker foot, in the moment, it was. That's why you look at the scenes at Arsenal, and people were saying, in fact, they're going over the top. You think they've won it already, but what this group are doing, and what the club's doing, and what they've done up to this point, everyone's together and they could feel it, and they realise how important this is. The start was terrible, but they turned it around. It was brilliant, honestly.
The people who are saying that can't have been in a title race. Like when you've watched the games and the seasons that we've seen over the past few seasons, every single point has mattered.
Yes.
Every time you can rescue a draw from the jaws of defeat, every time you can get 3 points when you've been drawing, it's proven to be so important when you get to the end of the season. It's not about that result.
No.
It's about those 2 points.
It's about those 2 points and the fact that literally a minute earlier you had one single point and then all of a sudden now you're up to the 3 because you can't help but think about scenarios at this point of the season. You've just seen Man City win earlier in the day, and now you're dropping points at home. Oh, we're dropping points at home to Bournemouth. They're the worst side in the Premier League. This is disappointing. I wonder what this means going forward. And then bang, the last kick of the game. I think that's one thing which I feel universally sort of makes it just... It's like a reminder how much you love the game of football. Because you can play in a game, you could win. Like the 7-0 feels incredible, but by the end of it, you probably felt weird as more goals were going in. But in that stadium there, when Arsenal scored in front of 60,000 fans, with the last kick of the game, you can tell it's a big moment because all the cameras are shaking. These are some of the most skilled cameramen in the world, and they can't hold a steady shot because everyone around you is going bonkers. So that in itself is, it's
I
amazing.
love a shaky camera.
You really shaky cameras, big moments. The cameras are all over the place.
And you score a late goal in FIFA. My kids do this all the time. I don't play FIFA. But they do the shaky camera.
Shaky camera.
But it's that it reminds you of Steve Bruce in all seriousness against Sheffield Wednesday. Brian Kidd on the pitch with Sir Alex Ferguson. These are seminal moments in a title season. And if Arsenal go on to win it, you bet your boots they will clip that up because that will be a key point. And from a newspaper point of view, I think winning that even convinces journalists, actually, this is something that we can...
Is that you? Are you talking about yourself? Or...
Well, not quite myself.
His staff.
Listen, I still think City... They know how to find a way to win, and they know how to just do what's required. They're not spectacular. They're not scoring 5 and 6 goals like they did last season. They can be, exactly. And they haven't reeled off more than 3 goals at any stage of this season. So Arsenal still have it all to prove, but they're proving it, and that's the significance of Saturday.
The thing I would say with that is what you say, Darren, is which is absolutely spot on, is finding a way to win. And I think Arsenal have done that a few times this season, and what they're learning on a weekly basis this is what's going to have to happen because if I'm playing in Arsenal's dressing room right now, I'm not expecting City to lose any more games. So that you're going to have to go out there, and if it goes to the last second, that's what you've got to go to because you don't want to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, we should have tried harder in this game or that game. Yes, you get the bit of luck. The ball comes off the crossbar for Martinez's head and goes in. You know, you get some bad luck where you don't get the decision where you're supposed to get the points in the game, and then you come back because you're not stopping. You're fighting all the way to the end.
And from both your points of view, I would imagine that if you lose against a side like a Liverpool, a Chelsea, a strong Chelsea, or a City, you can say, fair enough, hands up, you know, that they're great. But if you lose against a side that are bottom of the Premier League, that have got the record that Bournemouth have had, this, do kick yourself because you say that was a great opportunity.
Because if that happens, you lose to Bournemouth. Even if we drew with Bournemouth, the fingers that would have been pointed at, oh my gosh, look how well they're doing, and then they lose to Bournemouth. And no team is coming to the Emirates now who are playing against a team that's going for the title and not bringing their best game at the moment. You're going to have to deal with a team for 35, 40 minutes unless you see them off. You saw them scoring 10 seconds, girls. He said that he had that ready. You have to see them off, and this is why that Man United team from the back in the day was so unbelievable, because right from the first second to the end of the game, they're going right at it.
And I think the point as well, which you made there about seeing sides off, come the second half of the season, everyone's got something to play for. You know, Bournemouth themselves, like, they had that lead and they'd do anything they can to get that single point. And whoever goes to the Emirates, wherever they go to play, or whoever they go to play against, it's the same. Everyone is playing for their own thing. Like, we can have a focus on the title, or we can have a focus on the bottom four or bottom three, but there's everybody else in the middle playing. These are other professionals. They're playing for their careers. They're playing for their livelihoods. So no game is going to be simple. So that's, again, a big reason why this is such a big win in itself. And, you know, we could say someone has to play this team or that team and so on and so forth. It should be an easy thing. One thing we've seen across all the years, like, no result is set in stone before the game begins.
Especially in this league.
Exactly. So I think this is what makes it fantastic. But it makes me remember as well, as I realised this after retirement, there's no fun in the second half of the season. This isn't fun. When you're with the team,
right.
it's not fun.
So right.
Like, your team is winning 1-0 and they've dominated a game, and you're always thinking, oh, if they score now, everything's done. Everything's over, because that next goal you concede could completely derail the thing that you've been working so hard for. And for me, I think that's tough. That's a tough one.
But the converse of that is getting a goal in the 90th minute or later. And in fact, do you know that you're a joint record holder for scoring 90th minute winners in the Premier League?
No.
Yeah, there's a few players
That's
on
a brilliant one. Why didn't someone tell me
90th minute
that?
winners. I'm telling you now, the 4 90th minute winners, including this one, which I think is against Leeds.
Leeds, that
You
was.
scored this one against Leeds.
Yeah.
A 90-plus minute winner. And in fact, it goes back to the time that they didn't record it. So Reece Nelson's will go down 97, but yours are all 90 because they didn't put the added time.
They didn't put the added time on it.
So there you are. Look at the names you're on there with as well.
Wow.
So a few of them. That's you watching yourself score.
You know something? There is, when you do score in the 90th minute, even when you're watching someone else's game, when you watch and someone scores in that minute, it's an unbelievable adrenaline rush. Everybody gets that. But when you actually do it, it is amazing.
I've heard you compare it to some interesting things in the past, which obviously I can't go into.
It's so, but that one, because you've accepted the Reece Nelson one the other day. You've accepted that that you know we're going to draw, and you get the corner and you see it, the corner coming. But like I say, the way he took it. The way they just exploded. Look, because you see Bournemouth just got deeper and deeper. They were calling Arsenal on more and more. And what is good about this Arsenal team is that if you're calling them, they're going to go for it. Martin Odegaard, Saka, they're all going to go for it. You know, Xhaka coming on. I was pleased to see him coming on and doing these stuff. So they're going to go for it. And this is all I'm happy with the team. That they're not. You can't question their effort.
No, and it goes back. Sorry, just to the point you made about. They might have accepted the fact that they were going to take a point from the game, but they weren't playing like they'd accepted that. They were peppering that Bournemouth goal towards the end of the game.
Yeah, but this is why like I say, I was sat there because you saw that video. But when I saw that video, I was sat like this when they were getting to take the corner, because I was just looking, thinking, goalie's going to catch it, they're going to blow the whistle, and then you start to reflect on what it means, because now City are only 3 points behind. We didn't take advantage of the game in hand. You know what I mean? Everybody's been talking about the game in hand. We win the game in hand, then you draw or lose against Bournemouth. So all those thoughts are coming into your head, I can imagine, with the fans. So then for him to score at the last minute like that, everything's back on the table. And so, you know, the explosion, I can't even figure even now, I
But
feel
also,
happy again.
knowing that you've got to face City again, that 3-point gap with City having a better goal difference is comfortable at all for us.
Yeah, no, it's not.
I think
especially with the games coming.
After 25 games last season, Arsenal had, in the race for fourth place, Arsenal had 3 games on United in hand, 3 games in West Ham in hand, and 6 points on Tottenham in hand. And they blew fourth place. So the belief that they'll get from this, it will have answered questions not just to everybody outside, but inside the dressing room as well. It would have said to them, we can do this. I was at the game against Everton last week, and after the game we were talking to Aaron Ramsdale, and he was saying we're still hurting from the scars of last season, but we're actually driven by those scars because it helps us now not to get carried away with ourselves, but also to retain the belief that we can do it. And I think the signings of Zinchenko and Jesus, who obviously is not playing, but he's around, will give them that belief that in difficult moments, Jorginho as well, in difficult moments, we can do this. And I expect 1 or 2 more of these before the end of the season.
You know what, as well, Kels, I think that Darren makes a good point about the last season because it was a Newcastle game and a Tottenham game, win those and you put in the top 4. I think that the only way to erase that is to try and win the league this year in these moments because Nadem is 1,000,000% right. This time of the season is not enjoyable. You've just got to get it done for whatever reason, especially what we've learned with going for a title. There's no... You're relieved when you win. You're relieved. You're not like, hey, you're relieved like I was the other day.
You looked relieved in that video that we saw there. But when we talk about this in terms of the title race, Manchester City had what on paper looked like a tricky fixture against a Newcastle team that aren't in the form that they have been in the early stage of the season, but still have the capability to hurt sides. And it looked pretty routine for Manchester City.
Not necessarily throughout, because I think just before City scored the second goal, Newcastle were very much in the ascendancy. But, you know, we can't help but, like, think about storylines as we're watching games. And when City are 1-0 up, in the back of some people's minds, they believe they're going to concede again because that's who they are this season. But I'd say that's not really been the case in the last few weeks. And then for Newcastle, they're pushing, they're playing well, but they've not scored enough goals. So there are 2 storylines happening at the same time. Well, which one's more true? And it turns out at the moment, the one that's more true is Newcastle not scoring a goal. And I think that's a shame for them because they did cause problems to City. They caused problems to Man United the week before and they continue to cause problems going forward. But it's that final thing that sort of defines teams that end up at the top and the ones who sort of like fall away towards the end of the season. And for City, they found a way to win, especially in that second half. In the first half, I thought they were good. Second half, as I say, they struggled in parts. But this is it. They're playing against a team that's in 5th. You're playing in the second half of the season. Everyone's got something to play for. Yeah. And I was surprised by some people who were shocked that Newcastle had a real spell in that game of football.
They did.
Like, it's Newcastle, they're in 5th. They've just come off a cup final. They're having a great season. They'll cause problems to absolutely anybody. And so for me, it's a very important 3 points, and it feels like the sort of wheels are in motion in terms of this charge, which some people have been expecting. It hasn't looked beautiful throughout, but you've got players like Phil Foden, for example, coming back into form. And when Phil Foden's in form, he's one of the best players, not just in the Premier League, but in the world. So to have that, to have like a more informed Grealish, to have the goals that are available in the team there, to have a Ruben Diaz back in the team now and to be doing well, leading by example. They're not necessarily making ground up on Arsenal, but there's a belief amongst those players that they can win any game going forward.
That's the thing.
And for me, that's the biggest deal because there've been times this season where they've played particularly well and not gotten anything. But now they're getting something and they're not playing particularly well all the time. And which one would you rather be in? You know,
and that's what you're saying, is that Arsenal have to assume that Manchester City are going to win everything between now and the end of the season. And the return to form of Phil Foden has been a huge part of that, or maybe a symptom of that, I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't know what happened for his form to be lost in the first place, but that's going to happen when you're the age that he's at, and he's played in some big games up to this point. You know what I mean? He's playing at elite level. Probably played at elite level from the age of like 6. He's been performing to his unbelievable level, what he's got. And it doesn't surprise me to see him doing what he's doing. What surprises me is that when he's not playing, he's always contributing something. I tell you as well, I think you have to mention Jack Grealish because he's getting more and more influential in games. You never see anybody take the ball off of it. They either have to foul him or he gets his pass off. I like the way he's coming off now, coming into play and making things happen. So, you know, you're seeing that kind of side of their offensiveness. Him and Phil Foden, they look really dangerous. But What I would say with City is how they give up chances to teams. And if you are watching City, as good as City are, Newcastle created through Longstaff, Callum Wilson, and Joe Linton. They should have scored 3 goals.
Yeah.
You know, especially the way they created them, they should have scored. They weren't half chances. They were better than that. It was just a case of being clinical. And what it showed me with City is that City are, whatever people say, they are trying to make sure that they put Arsenal under pressure, which you'd expect them to do. And there's holes. You can get through them. And that's what you saw with Newcastle. But again, like Nadem says there, they're clinical in the moments. You know, Bernardo Silva can come off the bench and within, 120 minutes, he scores a goal. You know, they can score at will. You feel like at any stage in the game, they can score. And that's where the pressure is going to come from Arsenal, because you cannot see City in the games they've got left not really putting a run together. People saying, well, they haven't done it up to this point. They're capable of just doing that.
Absolutely.
Mm.
But that fragility in both sides, the vulnerability in both sides, in fact, the vulnerability, all the sides chasing Champions League football, is what's making it such an interesting race, because you just don't know which way it's going to go. We're trying to make patterns out of something that's been so patchy in the lead up to it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, City still remind me of if you're thinking about a horse race and you turn for home and you've got the leader is out in front, and then you've got behind him who's never won the race, and then you've got behind him the horse that's won the course and the distance and knows when to strike at precisely the right moment and could just get their nose on the line. And I think that's City. And in Guardiola, they've got a psychologist, a tactician, a man manager. He's been in these pressure moments before. Arteta has, but as a number 2, not as a number 1. And so literally these moments of relief come because they have to find a way to win these games, whereas City know how to chalk them off.
You see, when you look at those games, like even Fulham for Arsenal and Palace, they're both 2 teams that can cause problems for both of those teams. So if anybody gets something out of one of those games, if somebody doesn't get something out of those games, that could be a problem. Again, Palace for Arsenal at home it's a difficult game. Liverpool for City at home, it's going to be a difficult game. So, you know, if you're going into those games thinking, gee, we probably have to win all these games.
Well,
City are going into those games saying, we're probably going to have to win all these games.
But both sides are playing Liverpool at precisely the wrong time, for example.
Yeah.
Because Liverpool now, clearly, the adrenaline is rushing and the confidence is back. Fulham look a side capable of getting European football and are very strong, particularly at Craven Cottage. The Vieira Palace match for Arsenal could be very interesting. We'll have them fired up for that particular match. West Ham are fighting for their lives in the Premier League. That's going to be a tough one. So people are saying, oh, well, for Arsenal to blow this, they've got to lose this, that and the other. The traps are there.
Yes.
It's a question of whether they can fly them or not.
The banana skins are there.
You've gone quiet.
Sorry.
The tension's hit, hasn't it?
It's not fun even talking about it.
It's not horrible.
I feel the tension maybe hitting off of you at the moment.
Have you seen that?
It's
The
nerves.
realisation's just come into me as you start speaking.
But the problem is, you look at every game, and when you're nervous, every game looks difficult. Whereas you can look at it from an outside sort of objective perspective and say, well, you should get points there, you should get points there.
Yeah.
When you feel nervous,
Because
everything looks like the biggest hurdle in the world.
People would have looked at the Bournemouth game and said, so if I'm City, I'm looking at it and saying, they'll probably get that, so we're going to have to win. So they win, and we do beat Bournemouth, but look in the fashion. Like, you look at the City, I saw City got Southampton and so on, I couldn't quite see who it was. But you think to yourself, instantly looking here, they'll win those 2 games.
Yes.
Whereas in that 2-game run, Arsenal have got Liverpool away. This Liverpool, what we've just seen, this the rebirth, the newborn,
The Avengers.
the clone, they're back, they're assembled, they've assembled again. So, you know, but this is what's exciting about it, Kels, and why the Premier League is what it is because from now till the end of the season, we saw what Bournemouth done to a team that's top of the league. You can't call anything. You can't call anything.
Good job we're not a prediction show. We're just here to reflect on what's already happened. But look, the title race is going to be fascinating right the way to the end of the season. So is the race for top 4, and so too
in North London. My name is Derek Ray. With me in the commentary box is Arsenal legend Lee Dixon. And if the game is as enticing on the pitch as it looks on paper, we're not going to be disappointed. It's Arsenal, and they take on Reading.
Hi, Derek, thank you. Well, both managers will be reminding their players how important it is to start off the game really quickly. Really attack the opposition, put them on the back foot, see what comes of that. Hopefully we get a good game.
And this is the Arsenal starting 11. Bernd Leno gets the nod in goal. Thomas Partey starts with Granit Xhaka in the centre of the pitch. And he's broken free. A very timely interception. Lucas João. And a tidy tackle. How can he take them on and beat them? And with the goalkeeper. There to take it away. That's how to rob them of possession. And that was a very fine read. And he's made headway. And offside just as he was ready to pounce. Well, just couldn't keep the ball. Lucas João. The ball back with Arsenal now. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's well-timed pass here. And the referee has pointed to the spot. A penalty it is, and a chance for them to forge ahead. A clear penalty and a yellow card to boot. Well, it might still work out for them. And it crossed the touchline, so a throw in here. Opportunity to deliver the cross. Martin Ødegaard. Aubameyang. Aubameyang!